It's not a public hearing, but it has to be an official board vote.
Yeah.
But it fails first time.
Then it can't, it's not gonna be able to go through. So we can do
I
that.
didn't understand that. Okay.
But what I'm saying,
Beach days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
we actually have a.
Hey, can you hear us, Brian?
Deer in the headlight.
Here, can you do it? That's for Brian.
Brian, can you hear us?
Now I can. It was me. Sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
You resume the meeting.
Resume the meeting.
You guys see that okay?
Yes.
Wow, must be casual
I
Friday.
was gonna say, where's the suit?
Where's your suit, Brian?
Hey,
It's casual Friday.
Ask him what tea time he's got.
hey, what's your tea time?
I don't have one today. I'd rather be on the boat though, tell you that.
He's gonna be on a boat.
Would be, he said. All right, are we good to start then?
You were all set, and you're live and recording.
Okay, so we are resuming our budget workshop meeting from earlier this week. I think it was earlier this week. The days are blurring. So what we wanted to do was be able to just walk through the changes that Caitlin had made to the budget, and then I want to give the board one more opportunity to ask any remaining outstanding questions. Is that all right, Caitlin?
That's fine. So I can just start going through just like there's.
Yeah, perfect.
Point out the changes that I've made, and I finally added page numbers, so that was a big
Woo!
accomplishment. So I am proposing a 5-cent tax increase, and that is represented in the numbers that you have for you. That is with 4 cents going towards the capital improvement fund, which was recommended last meeting, as well as 1 cent going towards the general fund. Still leaving this in fund 30 each fund. So please interrupt if you guys have questions. Yes.
When you say the 14 cents, that just is in the property tax piece, that we still have an additional amount coming from parking in the front 30.
That's correct, as
Okay.
well as sales and use tax.
Okay. Just wanna make sure.
So, I had, like I said, I had that represented on page 3 with the revenues, under the ad valorem taxes, you can see that increase there. Page 4, I took the board salary back to the current amount as was discussed, so that saves about $23,000 in total.
Before, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that we all understand the base. On page 3, the 269. So Mr. Carter has used 1 cent is equaling $100,000. That's an estimate. This is actually a 1 cent increase based upon what you've seen before, correct? So the other amount, the 4 cents, will show up in the separate fund.
That's correct.
All right.
Yeah. I also have that. Want to get on one, please. So, other than the 14.
Before you go forward, professional services, it just jumped out at me. It went from 45,000 to 100,000. What's changed?
Mr.
Yes,
Carter.
that was the crisis, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any questions on that one before we move on? Okay. The administration, there were no changes. Department, page 5. Page 6 is the elections. Again, stayed the same. There were no changes on that one from our first discussion. Page 7 is the planning department, and I believe Chief has spoken with our planner, Deb Hill, in regards to what was talked about previous meeting.
Okay. What are we doing?
Yeah, but you should have a sheet there that there's two ways, which Caitlin and I sat down and looked over it, and I talked to Deb about it. And so we need to have some discussion about that. There's, in the budget, we put in $20,000 already in there to like outsource things and hire people out. The other thing that the board had asked was to use that or put together an assistant and how much that would cost for a planner. And the sheet that you have shows what the map study recommended as a salary for that, which was with the COLA up on the upper right-hand side.
So what page you
Which sheet are you on, Chief?
It's the bottom of the.
Got it. I got it. I got
The
it.
little sheet we added at the end should be additional.
Yep.
Says planning director on top of it.
It's at the very bottom of
Oh,
the.
got it. Sorry.
Right. Up in the upper right, that's showing the salary with the 2% COLA for this year. This year we're going into. So the hiring rate would be 57,471. If you put together all the benefits and all, it would come out to 81,636. That, man, with the increase that Caitlin had proposed on that, that's why we put $20,000 in there. I talked to Deb a little bit about it. I'll let her chime in. Some of this is cyclical that she's doing, so we have to decide whether we want to have an assistant in there or use the $20,000 and outsource some of that and then do a study to see if we need to add somebody.
I have one question.
Okay.
Just one. I know that Steve helps planning, and he's also, I think, does some beach stuff too.
He does that, but that's actually under code enforcement.
Yeah.
that
He's
all
not a
comes
planner,
under
he's
one
code
place.
enforcement.
Well, I'm just wondering, but his salary is coming out of Deb's budget, right?
Yeah, because it's all under code enforcement, which is under bid.
Okay,
We did have it split between the departments, but it's easier right now, so let's have it under one department.
okay. And is his skill set able to pick up anything that helps you, or is he already swamped full-time?
It's not that he's swamped, it's that his skill set is more appropriate for code enforcement.
Okay,
That's still something that I have to review and supervise and monitor.
okay.
But code enforcement.
I just wanted to ask that because I thought his budget, his salary was coming out of yours too. So I was just wondering if there was any room for help there.
Are we taking comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay, one is and it's a fundamental thing about how a business is. I don't believe in adding permanent overhead unless it's easy to add somebody, it's impossible to get rid of them. So I think the plan of giving her money to make sure that she's got the resources that she needs. And if we come back, and it's like she needs to have counsel work on stuff for her, I'm all for that. $80,000, I'm thinking we could hire 1.5 policemen or 1.5 firemen in permanent stuff, which I wouldn't be opposed to. But I just, I'm concerned, $80,000, going back to what Caitlin presented before, is about a 1 cent permanent addition to the property tax to pay that salary. I think that given where we are as a town, giving Ms. Hill the resources to go out and get that, and if you come back and that's not enough money in the middle of the year to get it done, then I'm open to considering that if we've taken a look at it. And I think to the chief's point, adding that back in again. But it just, I get very nervous at times, and we're also looking at taxes for people, that if we go with the 80,000, and to balance the budget from what you just said, we'd have to add almost 1 cent property taxes to add this thing permanently, and I'm not for that, so.
Well, we took some money out of the board salaries. We took about, what, 20 out of that. So I mean, there's some money there. I don't know if we've already spent that in another line. Here's what I'd like to see us do. We started on this conversation, Monday or Tuesday, whenever it was. The days, I guess it was Monday. Days kind of rolled together this
I
week.
think Tuesday.
No, Tuesday we were in Washington on the
Oh, that's right.
computer.
You're right.
I think we need to define the requirement more completely going forward. We've got options here, everything from outsourcing to hiring a full timer for 80 grand, and
To doing nothing.
yeah, but I would like to see something come back to the board defining what the requirement is.
I'm
Does
not,
that make sense?
no,
No.
I'm not sure.
Well,
So,
We say, well,
Responsibilities.
no, we can do this, we can outsource, but we first need to get our arms around, what is it we need? What is it in terms of support does our planning department of basically 1.5 persons, what does the planning department need?
but the planning department's here.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
let's ask
So,
him. Because
Yeah.
Deb and I've spoken previously, and I think you were leaning more towards contracted services, but what is it? Yeah, please.
I think it might help to give a little bit of background. That's one of the things that Chief and I had discussed. People come in and out, and not everyone is aware of how things started, or probably started for me 15 years ago with the town and the planning department today. When I first started, the responsibilities for the planning, zoning, cabinet, flood. And Campbell was just, that's too much for one person to do the job at all. And so we came back to the state for the state to maintain. And when we say that things are cyclical, every 5 years, the hazard mitigation plan has to be updated, and that's followed by That's followed by CRS. So they all build on each other, and then what I'm planning is, they go somewhere. This is all separate and apart, and having facilitating planning board meetings and board of adjustment meetings, and they have building variances. That's all on top of the day-to-day permit review, inspections, violations, follow-up, all the rest of it. So 3 times since I've been here, the town has budgeted a planning assistant. And that assistant that replaced after the last guy left. So there are, most of this, as far as my workload is, or as far as my time, is self-inflicted because you say you need help, no, I've got it, right? And whenever you want something, no, I'll do it, right? Until such a time that I can't get to something, and I'm like, hey, I'm signing right now. Can you get Scott to do it, or can you get Curtis to do it, something like that? So, it would be a great benefit to have a planning assistant. It would not be a benefit to have another assistant that does not have that planning skill set, because of all that. Just because this town is small does not mean that the federal state requirements are adjusted because of the town size. We have the same requirements in the planning world pretty much as what the county does for the full department. The difference being that this is a 1-person department.
Can I ask one other question? I was talking with Topsail Beach for my other job. And I know that they are down a planner right now, and they are using planning assistance, I want to say from the COG. Is that an option for you, Deb, when you were overloaded, or is the ramp up time too much?
They are a couple of differences between Topsail and us. Topsail's at build out. So they don't have the permitting inspections part of it. They are a CRS participant, and from what I understand, they went from a 5 to a 7, unfortunately. We maintained that 5 during that second cycle. With them being Cape Fear COG, and Cape Fear is, they really have a very nice house of planners.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're not part of the,
And we've talked about that a couple of times. Yeah.
right, that line's drawn there, and I'm not personnel over the past year from East Carolina Council COG, Council of Governments, ECC. I'm not familiar with the planners that they have there, because the planners that I knew that were at ECC, they're all at Cape Fear now.
And that's not an option for us.
I don't know if they would have some, like, I know the staff that takes care of Topsail, or that they, and I think that Town of Holly Ridge did that as well whenever they were going through a transition.
Okay.
That they used a planner from Cape Fear until they could get a full-time planner in there.
I was just wondering if that might be an option for the overflow projects, because if they have the skill set that you have, you might feel more comfortable saying, here, you can go ahead and do this and let me review it when you're done, versus all the training and everything else.
Right, certainly if ECC had, if they had planners that were of the same skill set, qualifications, I mean, I really think a lot of Cape Fear's planners that work there. I wish that we were part of Cape Fear just from a, because it takes me an hour to get to.
I've heard that a couple times though, and I thought for the past few years that's something that we were gonna investigate. So I guess my question is twofold, that we're able, if you were satisfied with the skill set that's available to you from the COG, maybe that means that we have to see what we could do, and not only just for planning, because I seriously have heard that multiple times about that might be a closer and better resource for us than where we're in now.
My understanding is that it is quite expensive.
Okay. I was gonna say, if those resources were available to you,
Because you're paying those guys by the hour.
well, that's what I was gonna say though, but if they're assigned to specific projects, would this 25,000 contracted services, do you think that would be enough?
No, I don't know. If it wasn't, then I would have to come back.
And do a budget amendment.
For a budget amendment.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So Deb, kind of what I'm hearing in your description is these cyclic plans that have to be updated period, 3 or 4 or 5 year cycle. So hopefully not all 3 or 4 of them are the same year. So you're on sort of on a different schedule for the different requirements. But kind of what I'm hearing is the idea of a part-time person with the level of planning that you need to work on these projects would probably suffice, because you don't have an even level of time needed to spend on these projects each and every day and each and every year, because they're cyclic, as you just said. So it seems to me like we should at least try for this budget cycle to hire out what you need help with, and with a person that's qualified planner. And there might be retired people we can find that are still qualified, still have their certification,
Yeah.
that sort of thing,
If that were the case, and we had this discussion like offline about, planners getting ready to retire, and whatnot, that would be a good fit for, trying to plug this in. I mean, this is a puzzle that I've been trying to fit together for some time. If we were in a more urban environment, I think that we would have a better chance of finding somebody that had, a planner background.
Yeah.
Typically, that's where you find planners. In a small coastal town, especially with the cost of living, finding someone with a planning background to work part-time, they're probably looking at full-time employment, unless, like you said, it's somebody that's retired, that wanted to pick it up.
And somebody that wants to live at the beach.
Well, I don't know. I mean, with the world of Zoom and everything else
Right.
being remote, I don't know that living here is
Yeah,
a
I mean,
requirement either.
We don't even have.
I'm not
office
saying
space
it
right
is or
now.
not. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's a good point, because we can do
Right.
Zoom, do things electronically.
Right.
It would be and you'll have those on your agenda for July the 1st. It'd be nice for, the School of Government to do a scan, or to have Cape Fear do a scan, if that was okay with ECC. Because we're contracted, because we have a contract with them under ECC, anything that I do with anybody else, I've got to run it through ECC to make sure that we're not violating the terms of our agreement with them.
Well, would you be comfortable, Deb, for the planning department to move forward with the contracted services of 25,000? And then if we need more additional funds, or if we need to go in a different direction, then it be presented as a budget amendment?
I'm okay with that. One of the things that I will do, I was doing it before, and I think that would help you. My time sheets, just myself, outside hours that I was working. Like we've had. For me, it was actually something, because I had my planning board last night. Right? So when I'm in here with you guys, which I
You can't work.
enjoy, I'm not doing the other stuff that will be waiting for me when we wrap this up. Plus, there's post stuff that I need to do as well.
Mhm.
Right. So I think, had I been doing that all along, certainly if Dave was here, and that's what would take for the what I was doing on a daily basis. But if it got to be competing demands, he would help me prioritize my time that way.
I think you still need to do that with the chief if you're having trouble, and I'm sure, you know,
We've
that,
discussed
yeah,
that.
he'll help you with that. And this is I mean, my work-life balance right now is about where yours is, Ms. Hill. And it's also because of all the meetings we've had this month, budget related, and with the public hearings we've had to hold. So, I really look forward to when we get back to having the one meeting per month. That would be nice, but I do understand that. And I've actually been, I've also been contemplating, and it's something else I'm just gonna throw out to the board to consider, but I am not really a fan of having the board meetings in the evening when the staff has already worked all day. And then if there's public hearings involved, we're here till 10 o'clock at night. The other two towns have their meetings during the day. And we don't need to answer that today, but I would like to throw that out because I would personally like staff to be able to go home at 5 o'clock. So, all right, yes, sir.
Following your lead, if we keep talking about the same issue, we're gonna be here for 2 weeks. Okay, it seems to me the consensus is, breakdown is, let's do an house what. Put some money in the budget, $25,000. They come back and they say, look, here's what we need. We've looked at this, we've done a study, because when you're doing the responsibility study that you're talking about, it's also performance. Like, I'm assuming there's a list of these 10 things that she's got on her plate every day. And the way we've always kept track of that is, this is the highest priority, lowest priority. We expect the chief to give her the resources that she needs. Right? And if a month or 2 months or whatever, Deb / the chief come back and say, look, because I don't know what you build. I don't know what these things get billed at. $25,000 at $100 an hour is 250 hours. That's a pretty good slug of time for something. If it's $250 an hour, it's only $100. It's only 100 hours. That's probably not enough time. So I would look to them, take a look at this, figure out what resources you need. And if it's a part-time planner, full-time this, or you found a resource you like, then bring it back, ask for more money, we amend the budget.
Yes, sir.
So it goes back to when I said, we need to define the requirement, okay? This is the first thing I said.
Yep.
My question for Deb, I've got two. The first is, we belong to ECC.
Yep.
When our contract is up with ECC, would it be to our advantage to consider being part of Cape Fear?
That's what I was asking.
If that's possible, I don't know what other services outside of planning that the county is involved with. I don't necessarily know that they provide management service and understanding, finance, other services, legal
Okay.
services. So I'm, I wouldn't want to throw this baby out with the bathwater.
Sure.
Where the town, unbeknownst to me, is having ECC work on other arrangements. I don't remember whenever Judy Hill's was here, they did quite an extensive amount of work. They did a build-out study for us. They did a master park plan for us. They did a parking plan for us. There were several of these big chunk plans that they were we paid them for it.
Right.
Right. So I don't know. I think that's something for the management and for the board to discuss on. If you could even do that. I'm not aware that you can do it.
Are they broken up by regions? Okay, well, that's the answer, probably by county. Well, I just want to make sure as we move forward here, are you satisfied with where we are? Hey,
We're no more worse. Yeah. And I'll continue to work with Chief or whoever the town manager is. I'll be better about my time management as well as there's something else I was going on. So there's things that I can do.
okay,
That I talked to Chief about yesterday as well on my end. And we'll just keep doing the best we can do. The most important thing, man, I keep saying it over and over again, is that CRS. And that has such implications for a direct benefit back to the citizens and property owners of this town. That as long as I'm here, I think that will always be.
Okay. And then I think, as you said, you're just communication. When you can't get to something, you need to tell us, because that's
Yeah.
more effective to know than you working 100 hours that week.
Well,
It's
just,
You know what I mean? So you just, I know that's hard, but you need to just say, these are things I'm not going to get to.
and just so you know that that community rating system is something that when we brief congressmen and senators and staff on our COBRA issue, we talk about the town's community rating system and how, and we use it as an example of our commitment to the environment. So
And for the people that know Mr. Lawrence, that does speak volumes, and when you say it, please let them know that this is the second cycle that the town has maintained this.
Yes.
Thing that Deb does a lot of is the IT thing, and I didn't get talking about much about that, but Caitlin and I talked about it, is trying to find a way to get all of that off of her.
Well, I was wondering that too. Is that something, again, is that something Steve could pick up? Or is that something that we could talk with Surf City? Surf City has a whole
That's what we were
IT
talking
department. So if we could get the IT off of you, Deb, that would really, you'd get to just come visit.
Well, then it goes back to, it seems like a squeeze of the two things, because if you get the IT part of it off of me, which would certainly be great. I mean, I don't mind doing it, but it is a.
Takes time.
It is a time thing. If you could, are you going to have to pay for a part-time IT?
Well, no, what I was saying was, let's talk with Surf City because they have a full IT department. So let's just see what might be available to us from either Monzo County or surrounding towns that might be able to help us. And if that still may be less than somebody who's credentialed as a planner.
It's probably gonna be more so.
or do we
Well,
have
let's
somebody,
see. I mean, let's just see.
or we have somebody else on the staff that can pick it up?
Exactly. That's what I
Okay.
was saying.
Somebody else, maybe not working, 50, 60 hours a week,
Right.
that could take some of this up. Okay,
Scott, he's here. He could do it.
He's on his computer right now. So I would suggest we keep moving.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you could take that as a follow-up, Chief, we don't need it for Tuesday,
I
but,
got lawn work to do. I gotta put that off as long as I can.
all right,
I
Caitlin.
didn't mean it that way, but it's like we got people watching. this.
We're gonna leave in what you have.
We needed to have
It
this done.
was, we already had 5,000.
Yeah, so we're adding 20.
We're adding 20.
We're gonna leave it at 25 until we hear back.
Okay. So next department was inspections, and we did not change anything for the inspections from our last conversation. Next page 9 is public buildings. I increased that bottom figure there by the 30,000 that we discussed was the 30,000 is still recommended for the town hall. Heating equipment that we get back in here.
Okay.
Sorry, before you leave.
Yes.
We've got allocated capitals for the IT stuff.
Yes.
Okay, I was trying to figure out the relationship. between this Fund 12 that Mike was talking
No.
about. There's not. Go ahead.
So the next page was insurance. There's just some follow-up things from there. I spoke with Randy Reeves with Wells Insurance, and he's gonna send you the declaration
Good.
policies for you guys to review, so once I get those, I'll forward them on.
Okay.
And I spoke with him again about going back in for the third time and revisiting the additional funding for the town hall. Again, I don't think it is likely, but I'm certainly willing to try. I can do it after the beginning of the fiscal year once.
Well, and I think, as you said, until we have all the bills in for the work completed, there's not really much they're gonna be able to tell us.
Right.
So,
You recommended I could, bring up the point, like you said, it's higher here, like the way the costs have changed, and all the supplies, and compare that to the original estimate. And
Mhm.
maybe we could go on that.
My other question would be on looking at our debt. It would I don't know whether we have this somewhere, but what the damages were and what areas the insurance didn't cover or was short or whatever. I think we need to do a comparison to the, you know, to see where our weaknesses were, so that we're sure we're covered or that we can reasonably be covered.
Right.
Although we're gonna be in better shape if we have another.
Yeah.
No, I think I would support 100% what she said. I agree with that. Find the gaps, theoretical gaps that we have.
No, go ahead, finish, because I have a great suggestion here. I think I know one person who's really into numbers and really into analyzing stuff like that, and making it make sense really quickly. And I'd love to see you review all of this stuff on town hall and see where the holes are.
What you get for talking?
And I know I owe you a beer, okay? But seriously, I mean, you're the guy when it comes to that.
I'd like to see.
Okay.
Well, it's like, one of the things I thought was kind of comical is she made a comment about, I forget what the insurance thing was. It was like $600,000 for $1 million worth of insurance. And somebody said, oh, that's crazy. She's like, no, it's $600,000 for $1 million of insurance for the entire complex, not for one unit.
Right.
Because nobody in the right mind would spend $600,000 for $1 million. worth of
One
coverage.
unit you can get
$150,000 unit.
at a reasonable price. As a homeowner, you can get wind driven rain, but when you're in a commercial building, it's a whole different price structure.
Yep.
All right, so I think the follow up there is we just continue to work on it. And Caitlin, if you could involve these two from a board perspective to help with the review, that'd be good.
Thank you.
All right.
That'd be nice to do.
Also, in regards to the town hall, I know Mr. Frankie had mentioned the Golden Leaf funding, and again, after the beginning of the fiscal year, I can tap a little more into that. So continuing on the separation of taxes. And I was actually told to me, I was going back to the salary line items for the fourth time, so I just and I made an error. So once I corrected that error, it brought that number down a lot. And that also affected our FICA as well as, and I broke out the forfeit in our 401k. We have two admin personnel. We need police. So they have different percentage than the police department. Police department by statute have a higher rate than regular admin. So once I broke that out, that also brought that figure down, which was helpful.
Before you leave, though, I would note it's $100,000 reduction when we had the first time.
Yes.
So I was right in terms of it's counterintuitive on the numbers, wasn't it?
Yes, yes. For the police,
It's a planner.
yeah. When we get to fire, that's a different conversation. For police, yes. So moving on. Oh, there's a blank page, I'm sorry. So page 14 is public works. And, the frame is rusty now. And so I think we want to bring it to y'all's attention. I believe it was cheaper earlier. And I think we're gonna be able to make it this year.
JB Well.
Picking up a hit, but it would take a lot.
I thought we also had a consensus moving forward that the police chief was going to find out if there was any other vehicles that we could get from the military. So, acting manager, would you check with the police chief and see if we can find out?
He shops every day on there.
There's your IT guy.
That's right.
Okay.
So just bringing that to y'all's attention that that's. Public streets. From our last conversation. Activity season also stays the same. Stays the same.
Sorry, just a quick question on that. Do we know for sure what they're going to charge us
Who?
for the sanitation stuff?
Oh.
That's an in and out.
I was on recreation. I was like, who's charging us?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have contracts with different providers. So our contract with GFL And then based on the tipping fees, that also changes the number. So they don't tell us what we charge. That on the number.
I just know, I think that's a misconception among people I've talked to, that they think we're making money on garbage collection.
No, we
I
pass
just wanna
it
make sure
through.
that we mirror whatever we get charged, that we're charged.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that line item is represented in revenues.
And one of the issues is the numbers of companies that are out there that do this kind of work have all kind of been bought up. All the small guys have been bought up, and so the competition to go out and rebid it is just not there.
Then color trucks.
All right, fire.
All right, fire. So I did go back through also on the salary line items here, and this one was correct. There were, last year, there were, in the budget, there were 3 firefighters. 2 of those 3 have been promoted to firefighter. So that's increasing it. And then with the 5% added, as well as there's about $40,000. It's all broken out, but for longevity and then holidays, it does come up to that figure. So fire EP are a little different than your normal office worker. So holidays are in addition to the bi-weekly schedule. So they get that in
Right.
addition to.
And what we also did is take the fire truck out of here and put it over into capital.
That out, and per conversations with the fire chief, we also increased our overtime. So last year, only $5,000. We drastically underestimated that.
Okay.
And so that's also at that fire, and like the other departments, we broken that out as well. So, went from 5 to 34 for the overtime. So that's.
Okay.
Just one quick question. Debt service is gone. We're gonna move all that to 12.
That's correct. Questions on fire? Okay, the next one is title cleaning board, and like we discussed last time, I broke out, I added a new line item, so there's one for cleaning board expense, and one for board of adjustment expense, and they each have $1,000. Listed there. And that the beach, which stayed the same. Then you'll see the last page for Fund 10 is the contingency. So that
Yay.
is $126,000.
I won't spend it all in one spot.
You are in charge.
Subject to board approval.
Exactly.
Well, if I come asking for a contingency, you know that we're out of money and the other stuff should have filled it out.
This would help give us, give us more confidence in the 25,000 we have in the planning department for
Mhm.
part-time. 'Cause
Exactly,
This is where we could take it from if we need to.
exactly. Or if Scott's truck doesn't actually make it.
Don't drive it.
Don't drive. Yeah, there you go.
Don't drop your water. So you'll see on page 22 is where I've added Fund 12, so that's gonna look new for you from the last time. Hopefully mirror somewhat what you've seen previously. So this is our new capital improvements fund, which we, per direction, has 4 pennies, $389,000 represented. And that is simply ad valorem in, and it's just gonna go towards the different line items that are specified. So we have the public safety building, as well as the fire truck that were brought up. So if there's additional ones, we can add it, but that's a good start, I believe. And then broken up the 3 for the public safety building and the 1 penny for the fire truck.
So I do have a question. Not that we would ever want to do this, but is there any restrictions on moving any of these funds to different funds?
I don't think so. I would
Okay.
definitely
we're not.
research and make sure, but I'm not.
Okay.
I don't think there are. Right? From a historical perspective, I think it requires a board vote.
Just to follow up on it. Please get that verified.
Brian's on the phone. He's on. Brian, are you still on there?
I understand, because I think to your point, putting it, because I was gonna say, we can be careful.
Yes, I am, Mayor.
So
That's a
we,
different decision.
Brian, what we did is we created Fund 12, which is a capital improvement fund, specifically for the public safety building and the fire truck, which is what has been brought up to date. My question was simply, since we created this new fund, Fund 12, are we restricted if there was ever an emergency and any of those funds had to be moved anywhere else?
The source of the funds that we're putting in that Fund 112 is coming from where?
A tax increase?
No, I mean, we can internally earmark it for that, but if we need to move it, I believe we can move it. And Caitlin, please let me know if you feel differently.
No, that's what Caitlin thought too. We were just trying to clarify.
Just,
Yeah,
just,
that source of funds is not restricted. But internally, we can segregate it how we want to, but if you need to tap into it later, and you could even borrow from one fund to the other, some towns, some other towns I know have done that, but.
I'm putting my lawyer hat on. That's right, Tom, just to make sure, Brian, that I understand. I understand that money that we would get from property taxes, we are free to move between the different funds.
Correct.
Without something like parking fees. Are we restricted on what fund those have to? I mean, what I'm trying to figure out is if we come up with a budget and we need more money in one place or another, understanding we've got the 14-cent commitment, I'm fine with that. But, you know, if, and again, I'm making this up, if everything went into Fund 30 because we have full flexibility to move it anywhere we want, that's one thing. But if we segregate stuff into 10, into 30, into whatever, are we allowed as a board to adjust those during the year?
Yes, depending on the source of the funds. Enterprise funds have certain restrictions. Occupancy tax funds have certain restrictions, and parking revenue related to on-street parking, not parking lot parking, is restricted until we get a local act.
You answer my question. So our parking at the parking lots is not
Any public, that can be used for any public purpose. Parking on the street can only be used to administer the parking, pay for the administration of the parking enforcement or parking program.
Okay.
So I do have a question on that. Do we have that set up that way, Caitlin? So the revenues that are coming in from the lots are going to the general fund and then to the beach fund. I don't know that we have, but I guess we haven't separated out lots versus street. So Brian, we need to separate out where the revenue's coming for the parking lots versus the street parking.
The on-street parking revenue should be at least, accounted for and should, yes, accounted for separately than the parking lot.
Okay. And that can go in our general, right now, Brian, the way we have it established is the north end parking lot was coming into, I believe, the general fund. And we left that there.
Right.
And then all of the new parking from the rollout of the town-wide parking was going into the beach fund. So it sounds like that's okay, but we need to also then take one step further and separate out the on-street versus the lots.
And we're starting to spill into the realm of legal advice, which I don't mind answering general questions, but since you've asked it now, I don't mind answering general legal questions in open session, but we do need to preserve the attorney-client privilege. But yes, until we get a local legislation that will allow us to treat on-street parking funds the same way we're allowed to treat parking lot parking funds, they need to be segregated.
Okay, so we have that follow-up then. Okay, thank you, sir.
Well,
And on the parking, Surfcast takes a percentage of our parking, right? So in essence, that percentage, hopefully, I mean, that's where that money would have to go from the street parking, would be to Surfcast. So I would think it would be fairly easy to figure out how much money, 100% of the money on parking, street parking and then just figure out how much we've already paid Surfcast and make sure that that balance is there.
Yep, and I think it's a simple follow-up for Caitlin.
Right,
Okay.
but I think, I 100% agree with this. I think what she's saying is Surfcast may be able to provide us that information so that we're not.
Right.
figuring it out.
Right.
Right.
That's a perfect solution.
I think
Yeah.
it's a phone call.
Third party.
I'll check with
You're gonna check with them
I'll
too?
check with
Okay. Yeah, I think it's just a phone call. I don't think it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Perfect.
I just wanted to ask to make sure we had that correct.
Oh, that's good.
That's good that we set that up.
Okay.
They break out their percentage on the front end and then they send us the revenue. So we're not paying them, they're not giving us the revenues and then we're paying them.
Right, right. It's taken out of.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah.
That's great.
I've got a comment on Fund 12. This budget in Fund 12, as far as I'm concerned, is a historic change in the direction of North Topsail Beach. We have never before committed ahead of time strategic planning to be able to put money into our town finances to plan for the future. We've always reacted in the past to emergency situations. So I am really applauding this board for the foresight to put tax money, ad valorem tax money, into capital improvements for things we know we really are critical and we need to have. So I just want to give each of you a pat on the back, I guess. But I'd like to ask Alderman Leonard, if you go back in all the years that you've been associated with the board, has there ever been a capital improvement line item? Is this
Not that I-
historic?
Not that I remember. I think we've always had Fund 10, the general fund, and we've had the beach fund. I want to say at one time there was an additional beach fund of some kind for certain projects maybe. But I agree with you that this is historic in that regard for capital improvements. And it's, as you've said, it's long overdue.
Think about that kind of pre-planning stuff. I mentioned this before about a research study, and we all said, yes, we know we're gonna have to do a safety building and this, that, and the other thing, but even for maintenance, it would be nice to know what these upcoming costs are gonna be. Like the safety building, we can build it into our tax structure. But it would be, we know how to plan the budget too, for each department a little easier.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I 100% support that. Understand what Alderman Benson, Mayor Pro Tem Benson, and I have been talking about with the board members as well is looking out 5 years for this kind of stuff. Where's, to her point, where's the elephant? We don't want to come to, and all of a sudden, we didn't know that we were going to replace the fire truck, or we didn't know we have to replace the fire. Because the firehouse, in my opinion, should have been replaced years ago. It goes back to exactly what you said is, I think it's incumbent upon us to plan those things. Okay, and I think one of the things that Mike had talked about here is we have to get away from thinking that we have to finance everything first dollar, and that we should be putting money away, because I think with the inflation we're seeing now, the idea that we're going to be able to borrow at these interest rates going forward, I think is highly problematic. So,
One of the things that we've done in the past is, and we did it this year too, is we have each of one of our department heads come in as we begin to formulate the budget, and we have them tell us where they are and what they need this year, what they need 2, 3, 5 years out. And, and it's been for vehicles, it's been for lots of hardware and things like that. Frankly, the issue with the Southland project, as carefully as I can, is that any chief who would come in, sit in front of us and tell us he didn't need anything. Okay? Tell us he didn't need anything. Board's taking care of me. I appreciate everything. Never once said, come down and look at my South End Fire Station board. Never once said that. And we got citizens that are raising Cain with us about the condition of it, and it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing It's embarrassing because we were led astray. And that's all I'm gonna say about it.
Okay, we're moving forward.
So you guys will turn to page 25. I just want to make you aware of what this is as well. I've also created another fund, Fund 15. You probably have heard of the American Rescue Plan that has been signed into effect by President Biden. With that, trillions of dollars are being distributed amongst counties and cities all over the country. So we are expecting to receive funding, except within June, it could be within this next fiscal year. Per the stipulations of receiving funding, it has to go into a separate fund. It cannot touch general fund money. So this fund has been created for whenever we get that funding. It's going to be in two parts that we're going to receive those, and it has to be extended by end of December of 2024, I believe. So
Is this the infrastructure money?
infrastructure money, it's going to be honestly difficult for us as a town to really spend.
Caitlin, was it?
Brad and I were working on this together and trying to find ways of how we're going to spend this money. Still working on it. Revenues,
We talked about this one.
hospitals, schools, we can funding for, so we don't fall into a lot of the main categories.
I think what I had heard on the calls that Alderman Leonard and I were on was it might have been Mayor Smith, that was mentioning these funds being able to be used for beach nourishment as it relates to infrastructure.
That was one of the topics.
Yeah.
Sure,
For a lot of it.
we don't want to give it back.
Make that work.
At that level on Tuesday was to get the feds, pushing the feds to clearly define infrastructure.
Yes.
And whether or not infrastructure got there. Dunes and sands, you know,
How about that inlet project? Isn't that infrastructure for maintaining and keeping channels?
what I think we're gonna run into is timing on it. Yeah, we may run into it, it may work, you know, but, and it would be great if it did. But,
So just making you guys aware of that, I wanted to get on the front end of it, set up the fund, and I think I also put it in one of your, packet memos either this month or the month prior, I can't recall, but I've also established a new our trust account. This is where this money is going to go. So it's into fund. So when the money gets transferred to us, it'll be in its own separate place, much like the funding that we have with the USDA, the sinking funds and the reserve funds. So just making you guys aware of that. And there were no changes in Fund 30 other than other than the tax figure. A little different. So other than that, everything stays the same there as well. And again, I'll point out the future projects fund on the last page is essentially the Fund 30 contingency. It's labeled a little different, but essentially you could say that's capital improvement or beach planning. Those were the notes that I had. Are there any other topics or any point that I did not cover yet?
I thought you did a great job. Just one question though. Can you send us the balance sheets?
Yes. the budget at home.
Absolutely
Balance-
not.
balance sheet.
No.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you have an idea, because I know we got, some, like USDA loan with the sinking fund.
Any other questions for Caitlin? This is it. It's your
no, I
one
think you
chance
did a
for
great
questions.
job.
Nice
You
job.
did a great
Yeah,
job.
nice job, everybody. Thank you, Caitlin.
But also, I didn't talk about the tax levy sheet, but just if you want to familiarize you with it. The top each section is the current rate at 41 cents, and at the bottom is my proposed 5-cent increase with the 46 cents. total levy that would bring in, and then how it would be divided between the funds, the percentage of what that would be per fund, and then the amount of pennies per fund. So
And-
just to have that, I'm a visual person, so it helps me to see it all in one area, so forever else.
Perfect.
do that.
The one thing I wanted to bring up, I know that Mayor Smith yesterday had mentioned that they had a slight tax increase up to, I want to say it was either 31 or 36 cents, in that it was still lower than the other towns. But I believe that they also have a fire tax, and they have some other taxes on top of, on top. It's not just the tax,
So it's actually more than what.
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know what Surf Cities was off the top of my head.
There's 41 cents for the general fund.
Surf Cities 41.
Weren't they gonna do 2 cents?
They said they did
Oh,
not.
they did not.
Mm-mm.
Questions?
Nice job.
comments?
Nice job. No, perfect
Thank
job.
you very much.
Had a lot of help.
Do a budget, I have a message from Steve Foster too. I think he's been checking in with you just to see if you're okay, and I haven't had a chance to call him back yet. But do we have to do a budget letter as well? Are you comfortable? Okay, because I know he's volunteered to help if you need anything.
That's actually,
You'll see that on Tuesday. Budget ordinance, I think is the title of it, and it's basically a summary of everything you see.
yeah, the manager has to present that
Signing on.
formally.
Yeah, I'm
But-
just saying that Steve was volunteering to.
But once we sign that ordinance, you sign that ordinance and it's published by the clerk, then it takes effect in 30 days. So the first part of July, we'll have to be operating on our current budget, correct?
That's a good
That was the
question.
information I got
Okay,
from another town.
okay. Last year was my first time, and last year we signed it really close to the end of the month, and we started operating on the new budget as of July 1, so that could have been wrong, but I'll look into that.
Yeah, I don't recall that either. And I know this isn't the first time we've come this close to the end of the FY before we, unless you've got something, some document somewhere that's like a,
This is just word of mouth.
oh,
So
whose mouth did this word come from?
Somebody that wasn't present yesterday at our Fort Town from Cersei,
Okay,
one of those guys that was not present.
all right.
Well, I mean, we can
He may not
ask.
be present to win.
So do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
You know, the,
What?
No,
Mm-mm.
you're right.
no, this was just, no.
I'm sorry, sir. What?
We're good.
We're good? Okay. All right, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Bye.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Caitlin.
See you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Take care.